What's up, guys? It's your girl Riva, and I am back again with another video. If you're new to this channel, hi, my name is Riva. It's very nice to meet you. Before we get into this video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up. And as I always say, make sure you guys leave your comments in the comment section down below. It does not matter how you feel about this video. We all want to talk about it. Also, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow my Instagram. It's at RIVAH_JORDON. And as you guys can see, I took a little bit of a break from posting on my normal schedule. If you guys missed my live on Monday, you definitely have to go check it out. It was one for the books. It was my first live. It was something, we had a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of different things. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. But I am back to my regular scheduled programming for now. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the video.
No.
Okay. Do you
Go ahead. Say what you gotta say.
Okay. Do you think we're doing a good job with marriage nowadays and dating in general? Do you think people are finding what they want in life?
No.
Okay. And would you agree that in foreign countries, maybe not necessarily wherever you're from, but like in other places, people marry much more and they stay married for much longer compared to how we do it here?
Yes.
Okay, so wouldn't you also potentially agree that maybe the way that we're doing things is a little bit fucked up?
Definitely.
Okay. And so if I were to ask you, what do you think is the largest difference between how we do things here and how they do it in those countries where it works?
What's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the main differences with how we do it here and how they do it in other countries, in my personal opinion, is just the freedom that we have, right? The freedom that we have over here to kind of like, do as we wish. We can break rules, make our own rules, and like we're always going to have the support somehow by society. So I think one of the main differences is the freedom.
Well, I'm Italian, so one of the things that I've noticed in Italy is that once you're married, to get divorced is basically unthinkable.
Why?
Because of what I mentioned before, and going back to that, once you marry someone and you make those vows, not only marriage is a safety net, but you're also promising to work things out with that person. So the belief in like divorcing doesn't come as easy as here, where it's just like, well, let's just get divorced.
It's not,
and it's basically like people get married to get divorced here. Like that is the goal.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
So when you're living in a foreign country, when they get married, they're not just marrying the person. Families are coming together. You have a whole social responsibility. It's not just me and you.
It's a community thing.
It's a community thing. Here, everything is about how I feel and what I want and my standards.
Right.
Guess what? Over there,
Personal
they don't talk
gain.
about standards. We asked everyone here what they wanted out of a marriage, and people are talking about we want to grow together, we want to do this. You go to foreign countries, they don't talk about those concepts. They don't want to talk about that. Take care of the kids, take care of me, and make sure that you don't stain our family name, and then that's pretty much set, right? And divorce is not even a concept.
Right.
People settle. It's like their standards are very reasonable and they're very at a good place. And you know what? They end up married and they end up finding somebody that works for them. I think out here, people say they won't settle, but the things that they won't settle on aren't even important to making a marriage last.
True.
Well, like, what do you guys think? Like, I was interested in hearing what people were saying, like, what I bring to the table long term. But none of you really mentioned the things that really matter to making something work long term. Nobody mentioned responsibility. Nobody mentioned duty, right? Nobody mentioned just the idea of labor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people have these unrealistic expectations when it comes to long term projects, right? And they think it's, going to be cool and we're going to love each other and there's going to be lots of emotions and spiritualness and all this other stuff. The truth is, it's a lot of work.
Yep.
Go ask people who've been together for a long time. They'll be like, yo, it's work.
And to add on to what he's saying, a lot of people get married for the wedding day, right? Like they get married for the wedding, but they don't get married for the marriage. And exactly all of the work that it requires. Every day it's not going to be easy. Every day that you're not going to wake up and have those butterflies and be so in love. It does take work to keep any relationship together and to keep any relationship functioning. And so I like that he's saying that because that speaks on a really big point, especially with a lot of, modern women or, just the mentality of like this whole fairy tale lifestyle together forever. And that's just it. And, exactly, nobody talks about the work that is required. So I completely agree with that.
The wedding day is wonderful. See? After that, every day you wake up, The kids are crying. You don't get to sleep for days. You guys got all these bills piling up. People got to take second jobs. She's going through fucking, after effects of pregnancies. There's all kinds of complications. It's a lot of labor.
Yeah.
So when people come in and they say they're never going to settle, I already feel like when you're coming at this whole idea of marriage, especially on the things that you say you won't settle on, I'm like, they're not important to having a good and long, prosperous marriage. People talk about, I want to be in love with my husband, but people get divorced. You know what they never mention? Love. Because they still love each other. It had nothing to do with why they get divorced. They get divorced for financial reasons, right? They get divorced maybe sometimes because of infidelity, because you know what? I don't want to be with that person. But love is never the thing. So I just think it's interesting that the things you guys need aren't the reason that people get divorced and aren't the things that keep people staying together for a long time.
That's awesome. No pun intended, but Abba is preaching.
Opens up a mind.
And I'm just say one last thing is like, a lot of you are young here, so for me, like I don't even fault it. I think hopefully you guys learn this as you grow older, but you start to realize all these romantic notions and all this other stuff is really not that important. You guys got to understand what it means to. It's just not fun. You know what I'm saying? People, you describe them, they've been together for 34 years. They don't look at each other and go like, this is fun. They're like, I like being around you.
Not true. I've met people who have been together for 50 years and still hold hands and still super cute. I was a nurse and I had patients that were 80 years old. And I'm like, how have you been together for 50 years? Like, what's the secret?
You want to know why?
Why?
Because the women were different back then.
Yep. Way different.
I'm going to keep it a stack with you. A lot of women want to get married, but they don't want to be wives. Yes. Remember? And an example of that, who initiates the divorces? Who breaks up the families? It's the woman, man. Like the statistical data is there. Like
I have to go off of what she just said. That is very, very true. You do see a lot of couples who've been together for, 50, 60, 70 years. They are happy with each other. They still hold hands. They still go on dates. Like, very cute couples. But at the same time, the woman is a certain type of woman, right? Like she naturally has a certain mindset. She naturally operates a certain way. So that's number one. Number two, sometimes you have the other side of the spectrum where, they're like, you ask them what's the secret and they're like, I don't even know still. Like, I still don't know how we're together because we fight every single day. So it definitely varies. But as he just said, the women were very different. They had a different mindset. They had a sense of duty and responsibility to their homes, not only just to their husband, but to their children. And as Alba said before, to society as well, that they had to maintain a certain lifestyle to be considered like, a good woman. So nowadays, people just don't care about that. They just kind of do whatever they want. They want to be married, but you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me how to behave. You can't tell me how to act. And that's like a really big part of being, married for a long time and remaining happiness is being cooperative with that man. So I like these points. This is a good conversation.
Men will always try to make a marriage work, but it's the women that leave.
Yeah, after he went and fucked 1,000 other women.
But back then, women were willing to put up with a lot.
They were.
Right now, women are not.
They're not.
My grandparents have been married since they were 17.
Yeah.
My grandpa had a whole other kid with another woman, and she still stood by him. Why? Because she was willing to put up with it. Nowadays, women are not willing to put up with anything.
Let me ask you.
And it's not just about willing to put up with it. It's the fact that they had so much respect for their counterpart and, again, such a duty and responsibility that they stayed. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't an option for them. Because they were married to that man, it wasn't an option to leave. It wasn't an option to break up or get divorced. And to be honest, a lot of women will leave now, right? Like leave now because of infidelities or because of another woman or whatever the case is. And then they never find anybody else. And then they're miserable and wish I should have stayed in the relationship.
Was it a good environment for your parents for the most part?
For my grandparents?
No, for your parents to live underneath your grandparents.
Oh, probably not.
Why do you say probably not?
Why? Because of that's infidelity. That's fighting. That's you're seeing. Why is my mom divorced now? Why? Because look what she grew up to.
Or maybe I don't know your mom personally,
go ahead.
Maybe your mom decided I'm going to prioritize me over the family. And you know what? When you raise a kid in a divorced household and you prioritize your sense of happiness first, what ends up happening is that the kid suffers the brunt of that negative energy and that choice that you make. So when I say this, is like your grandparents were like family unit's the most important thing. I must make this work. Even though I may not be completely content, I understand we're aspiring to something bigger, which is our sense of community. I'm not going to break that up because you did something that I thought was wrong. So you get down to your parents' generation. This is the boomer generation, the highest divorce rates we've ever seen. Now everything's about me. They go to divorce courts. Where's your assets? Where's your money? They don't bring up love during that whole period. They say, I want everything that you fucking got. Love never comes in, right? So then you get to this generation and they just completely throw that out. And I think one thing that the West, and I think in Western countries, we think about a lot is like, me. It's always about me. And not recognizing when you marry, it's about a community. So your desires sometimes have to be a bit on the back burner, and you have to understand you are sacrificing for something larger.
Exactly.
Well said.
Really quickly.
Yeah, they're gonna stay because in their mindset, like, no, I have a family with him, I have kids with him. But again, one thing that needs to be mentioned is that it was just never something that they thought of doing. It was never on the table. It was never something that they'd seen done. They weren't gonna be the first ones to do it. And they understood the responsibility and the duty. And I found it interesting that she said the thing about fighting because majority of the time, especially, I don't know how old her parents or grandparents are, but in that generation, there was no fighting. The kids didn't really know what was going on. The kids didn't really see the situation. It wasn't until they got older and got wiser and started to realize certain things like, oh, wow, like, who is this person that's coming over? Or wait a minute, this is my brother, but he doesn't live with me. It wasn't until they got their own knowledge to understand the situations because they kept it peaceful and kept it calm and cool and collected in front of the family. Again, because of their duty.
Just a quick question. So, do you feel like also men think about me when they sleep with another woman, knowing they have a family? Just a question.
This is what I would say. When you come into a marriage, you have to ask, is everyone doing their duty and their responsibility? Is he bringing home the bread? Is he taking care of the bills? Do you guys all have a roof over your head? Does he handle almost all the large responsibilities? If he does, he's done his part. In that same token, you as a wife, have you been supportive? Have you created and fostered a home where when he comes to, it's not stress and you don't just come home, start nagging his ear off. He's like, damn, I don't want to be here. Let me go back to the streets. Have you done your job also on that end?
And when you get angry, are you, withholding from him? Because a lot of women that enter into certain situations and then the man steps out or whatever the case is, they're pretty aware of the part that they had to play, but they're not going to tell that to other people. They're not going to make that known to other people. They want him to seem like the bad guy so they can feel better, but they know where and when they had dropped the ball within the relationship. So I like the fact that he's bringing that part up as well, because everybody puts all the blame on one person when that situation happens, when sometimes it's a big deterioration within the whole entire relationship. And, again, that man sees it as his duty to stay there for the family and for the children. The woman sees it as her duty to stay there for the family and the children. But internally, the whole unit has technically broken apart. They just put on a face for everybody. So when you see he, has another kid somewhere else, sometimes it's not a shock to the woman. Sometimes she's very well aware of the fact that her and her husband are not together, but that's just not what they're displaying to everybody else.
If you have, then a lot of the stuff on the outside becomes superfluous. And I would say, you guys talk about this, you're like, infidelity, the worst. You go to a lot of those other countries, that's baked in. That's normal. They already know what time it is.
Yeah.
So we talk about it here like, wow. But over there, it's just like,
normal.
He takes care of everything, so I'm good.
What if I don't need him to take care of everything?
Right.
What if I have my own?
No, but right, because some women too in other spaces, they get mad. Like some people will come and try to expose, like, oh my gosh, I saw your husband here with somebody else, and they're genuinely upset because now they're forced to behave in a certain manner to save face so that they don't look dumb or they don't look stupid or crazy. But they're mad because they're like, stay out of my business, because now you're making me have to act a certain way that's expected of me to act when I already knew this was going on, or I already dealt with that. I'm good with that. But now, because all of the other people in my family know, I have to behave in a certain manner that I don't really even care to behave, because again, everything is taken care of. I'm fine. I'm good. We're good. We have an understanding. So that's another thing to mention as well.
Why should I take it?
And that's great. I'm not mad at you. Go for that. But guess what? In America and in North America in general, women are the ones who are dying alone more than ever. So we can say this stuff and say, I'm going to take it. Go ahead. No one's going to stop you from making your choices. But then also don't complain when you hit late 40s or whatever, you don't find somebody. And I'm like, listen, have you guys been settling on the shit that doesn't matter? And they say, no, I'll never settle. Yep. There was a study that came out, bro. And the study said, I think it polled like 300 women, 300 men. Mm-hmm. And it asked the 300 women, if you asked the 300 men, it said, if you had 80% of what you wanted from a wife, would you take her? And guys were like, fuck yeah, that's amazing. Ask the same question to ladies. 80% of what you wanted. They were like, I will never settle. 80% of what you want. That's crazy. There's a bit of a delusion of this idea. Right? Go ahead.
It depends on what's in the 20%. Is it cheating?
But here's the thing. So you mentioned earlier, I see old people that hold hands. They're still together, 80 years old. You guys want to know the uncomfortable reality? The reason why they're together is because she's a traditional woman. Okay? The problem is that women want traditional relationships. They want traditional men, but they don't want to be traditional women.
Okay.
That's the problem. You know what I'm saying?
Things have changed.
Okay. Things have changed. And if things have changed, you cannot expect things to be the same way they were in the past. Holding of the hands, that love, that undying love, that comes a lot of the time from the woman, number one, submitting to the man and understanding that he's the leader. Number two, understanding this fundamental concept that a lot of modern women don't understand. Men and women are not the same at all. We're very different. The way we show love versus the way you show love are two different things.
And a point that I want to make too, based off of this conversation of how things were in the past. If a husband had a wife who was a traditional woman, right, was on his accord, was happy with him, gave him peace, gave him all of these things, and he still had families outside of the home, and he still had other relationships, right? Can you imagine being a woman who is not on his accord and is not making him feel happy at home? Can you imagine the hell that you're bringing yourself? I think that literally answers her own question.
If I run around and smash girls, right, it's not personal. If you run around and smash dudes, it is personal. Because the reason why is that it takes women way more to have sex than men do. We can have sex emotionless. You can't. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So that's why it's a big problem. And a lot of modern women can't grasp that men a lot of the times are going to cheat or whatever, and they'll ruin a family, divorce a man, whatever it may be. And who suffers most? The kids. Go ahead, Eva.
I want to ask you, you were a registered nurse, correct?
Yeah.
Have you seen people die by themselves?
Yes. Too many.
What's
So
that
sad.
like?
Terrible. Miserable.
And you also have to acknowledge more people are going to be dying alone today than they ever have before, and that's only increasing. So I think there has to be a very sensible discussion about what are we condemning people to when we're saying all this stuff? Because it sounds great in theory. Never settle, go for what you want, et cetera, et cetera. But the alternative for a lot of women is it might be work out for you, but 3 other women who heard your advice who probably shouldn't have taken it, or they might end up dying alone.
Right.
And you're not going to be there for them when that happens. So I think we have to be sensible with stuff that we say, because I get it. It sounds great in theory, and look, it might work for you, but for the people who are dying alone, I'm like, whoo, that's not a way I want to die.
So there's a biological premise that women have been lied to. A lot of women think that at 19, everything is about career, But when they reach 30, they realize, well, what about family? Family starts to become the most important thing, right? Because you're at a prime of life where from there it starts to become downhill when it comes to your fertility. So a lot of the times, women nowadays are told career is the most important thing.
Yes.
That is a lie. Of course.
Well said.
It is a lie because we are biologically wired, and men also have their wires, but women are biologically wired to give birth, to bring life, and we are intrinsically interested more in people, and men are interested more in things. That's why you have more women nurses and more men that are engineers or architects. Does not mean that cognitively men and women have actually overlapped more in similarities than in differences. So we have differences in interest, but cognitive ability is about the same.
Right.
So we could say that mentality, we are equal. Interested, the things that we are interested in, then we are totally different, But women are also more agreeable. Men are not so agreeable.
Yeah.
So women will settle for an average man, as you said. But nowadays, because of this lie that career is the most important, everybody is like, I don't want to settle. I can do the most for me. But realistically, once you reach 30, you start looking everywhere because biologically your clock is ticking and you want to settle and you need to settle.
That's facts. That's facts. And a lot of people may not like that, or, a lot of the, career women don't think that's true, but that is true. The closer that you get to 30, you start thinking about wait a minute, family, kids, am I going to, am I not going to, what's going on? Especially if you're in a lot of groups with a lot of friends or a lot of other people, a lot of people you start seeing getting married, having children, starting their families. You start feeling like this this peer pressure, basically, right? Like you start feeling like this peer pressure of like life just happening, and wait a minute, you're alone. You focus on all of these things. Yes, you know, you're like the rich auntie vibes, or yes, like you have the money and all of these things, but you're alone, you're by yourself. So everything that she just said, I completely agree with.
You want a family.
I'm gonna say you can say that they want to settle. A lot of them are not.
Mm-mm.
You know,
No,
that's why we have this new
definitely, yeah.
phenomenon where a lot of ladies, I'm Marie's kid by myself.
Yeah,
I get
of course.
spooned or
Yeah.
not.
Of course.
Yeah, that's true. They're not going to settle. So they are going to be alone. But the women who are willing to settle will be married and will have children. And the thing about settling that's so interesting is because they go for these massive careers, right? So they're making a good amount of money, a decent amount of money. Now they want somebody that's making more than them. But the men who are single, who are available, are in a different tax bracket. So what are you going to do? You're going to decide to just keep your money and keep searching while you're 30, 35, 36, 37, 38 with no children still? No, as she said, you're going to start looking around and just kind of like giving the people that you wouldn't have given a chance before a chance miraculously. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I'm like, you are bugging, lady. What are you talking about?
Most women would not make that admission that you just made, that career is a lie. I mean, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with women that make money and want to become successful. But what I am saying is they need to look at the consequences of that. And the consequences of that 9 out of 10 times is you're going to put yourself in a socioeconomic bracket where you don't necessarily qualify to get a man at that bracket. Does that make sense? Because the things that men look for aren't the same things that women look for. So you make $100,000 a year. You want a guy that at least earns $100,000 a year too. So the men that you're looking at, right, are a small minority of men. The problem that you have, though, is that those men don't necessarily care about how much money you earn, whereas you care about how much money they earn.
Right.
They have no problem dating down with the girl at McDonald's. So that's where a lot of career women find themselves, where they lose men.
Yes, because I love that he just said that, because you guys are making the same amount of money. But the man who's making that same amount of money from you requires somebody who's going to be cooperative, going to get on his page, going to put him first, ultimately, right? Be there for him to, do everything and supply his needs for him in a certain way. And as a woman, as a career woman who's making that same amount, no, like I need to go to work. So I can't do certain things. I can't be as cooperative as you because I have to go to work. I have something else to answer to. And if this doesn't work out, I have my own money. So it does become an imbalance. So it's going to be like the women are with men who are letting them kind of like do their things, who are not in their tax bracket, whereas the men are going to do the same thing. So it's like a clash, as they think that it's equal or it's the same because of the tax bracket, but in actuality, it's like it's not like a battery, like plus and minus. It's like opposites. It's not going to be able to go together.
Younger, more attractive, more compliant, feminine women, and the other thing too is that women that are career women, I hate to say it, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them tend to have masculine traits.
True.
You mentioned agreeableness. Agreeableness is a very big predicator on how much money you earn. The less agreeable you are, the more money you're going to make. You know what I'm saying? And this is why the wage gap is a myth, that's a whole other conversation. But long story short, you mentioned a lot of facts there. But yes, as a woman earns more money, again, she's going to feel like I'm not going to settle because
she's going to feel like she's not going to settle, and she's also going to feel like she don't have to listen to nobody. So that's a really, really, really big point. And I think that these conversations are so necessary for so many different reasons. But one of the biggest things is that career, right? This big thing of having this mindset of like your man needs to make all this money, or you need to be like a boss chick. And kind of like downplaying the fact that like if you are a wife who is home taking care of your kids, like your life doesn't really matter that much, or you're not a boss, or you're not this, or you're not that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's different lifestyles for everybody, but depending on the type of man that you're trying to be with, especially like he said, the tax bracket and stuff like that, will depend on what type of woman it would require to be within that space. And a lot of these women want men who are high value men making a lot of money. But they're not willing to be the traditional woman in that role. So money-wise, it looked like we were saying before, it's the same on paper, but in real life, you're not compatible with him because all of the things that you think that you offer, bring to the table, are none of the things that he's looking for. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. If you're not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. And again, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow my Instagram. It's at RIVAH_JORDON. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Love you.